We are exactly 2 months away from the start of the 18th edition of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, which you can watch right here on Fox Sports. Last Thursday night in Miami, the draw took place. 16 teams divided into 4 groups of 4. Mexico, Canada, Panama, and the United States were the seeded teams. And here's what the draw threw up for those of you watching us. Group A, Mexico, Costa Rica, Suriname, and Dominican Republic. Group B, Canada, Honduras, El Salvador, and Curacao. Group C, Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Guadeloupe. And Group D, the United States, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, and Saudi Arabia. Thoughts?
Okay, so obviously the reason, or another reason why you should pay attention to this Gold Cup is it is the last opportunity for Mauricio Pochettino and actually the first opportunity for him to see this group a year out from the World Cup play in a tournament type of setting. Now, we all recognize that the U.S. has won the Gold Cup many, many times, and the expectation is for them to win it again, even with the last window not going well and some obvious and evident problems that this team does have, and maybe even more so, to be able to see this tournament and see this team in this tournament kind of reestablish their dominance relative to CONCACAF, okay? And I know we have higher goals of establishing a dominance globally, but at least reestablish the dominance relative to CONCACAF and to, I guess, reignite a belief and a hope that this is a team that is worth having belief and hope for come the 2026 World Cup. As far as the actual group, Mosse, with the United States, Haiti, Trinidad, Tobago, and Saudi Arabia, if you look at it relative to the other groups, it's probably the hardest group, and yet I still would have the U.S. finishing first, and I still think that the U.S. should go to the final and win the final here in the Gold Cup, and anything less than winning the final, given the history and given the talent that this team has, notwithstanding the failures that they've recently have, not winning the Gold Cup will be a failure. So I like the fact that we actually have a quote-unquote, I know it's all relative, but a quote-unquote harder group, but I still think the U.S. should sail through the group and win the Gold Cup.
Keep in mind, Stu Holden has identified Haiti as a potential sleeper at this summer's Gold Cup. They did make it all the way to the semis in 2019, lost to Mexico in extra time. They have Inter Miami's Fafa Pico. Elsewhere in the group, Saudi Arabia are coached by our old friend Hervé Renard, who everybody in the world except our old friend Chiara finds attractive. He coached them at the last World Cup, orchestrated a group stage win over eventual champions Argentina, and then left to take over the French women's team, and now he's back on the bench for Saudi Arabia. Remember, back in 2021, Qatar took part in the Gold Cup as an invited guest, played well, got to the semis before losing 1-0 to the U.S. I know you put out some power rankings, and you had Saudi Arabia pretty high. You think they're one of the strongest teams in this tournament?
In this tournament? Absolutely, yeah. Yes. I mean, and maybe I get blinded by the incredible sight of Renard's open-chested appearance. Yeah, he's a good-looking man, and nobody wears a white button-down shirt better than he does. Yeah, I think that this is a good group. Again, I think that the U.S. should beat Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, and Saudi Arabia, and that's what we should expect. And with the higher, I guess, more pressure now on this team, given what has happened, I do think that they will rise to the occasion. And when you compare and contrast with, I don't know, Mexico's group, with Costa Rica ranked 54th, Suriname ranked 137th, and Dominican Republic ranked 139th. Now, I know they're FIFA rankings, but they're at least a small little gauge as to the competition relative to someone like Mexico. And even Canada with Honduras, El Salvador, and Curacao, that's a harder group. But I do think that, and then Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, Guadeloupe, okay. I mean, I still think the U.S. has the hardest group and has to kind of show up. Games June 15th, June 19th, and June 22nd, by the way.
Yes, the tournament opens June 14th with Mexico, Dominican Republic at SoFi, and then the U.S. Plays the following day, June 15, against Trinidad and Tobago at PayPal Park in San Jose. And then their second game is against Saudi Arabia in Austin, and then they close things out against Haiti at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas.
Mosse, I try not to preempt emotion, right? And kind of just let the moment take me wherever it's going to take me. But I find myself kind of fantasizing about this summer. Obviously, I have a lot of focus on 2026, but this summer relative to the Gold Cup, and trying to imagine how I will or how I should feel if the U.S. were to live up to what I say and to win the Gold Cup. And part of me, because of, I think, the disappointment, it's not anger, but I think it's the disappointment of where this team is so far. I picture myself saying, there's no confetti, there's no music, there's no, hey, good job, guys, because this is what we expect you to do. And now that you're finally living up to it, you don't get a attaboy relative to what you have done here in the past.
When the U.S. beat Mexico in the final back in 2021 in Las Vegas, you famously cried on the air. So you don't anticipate that happening this time?
I don't anticipate that. It was a very different time, literally a different time in the Earth's history. There was the COVID thing and all that kind of going on. And also, I can envision it right now, and I might get taken over by the moment and the emotion and the things that I feel. And I raise my hand. I wear my American flag on my sleeve when I see this team that represents what I feel is the greatest country in the world. I can be overtaken, and I can go into a tournament steadfast that this is the way that I'm going to talk about it, and this is the way that I'm going to feel. And the soccer gods have other plans.
Incidentally, the U.S. group is crisscrossed with Mexico's group for the quarterfinal. So if one of the teams were to screw up and finish second, you could have a U.S.-Mexico quarterfinal. I do have some thoughts on the other groups, if you'll indulge me.
Yes, go.
Group A, I very much wanted Mexico and Costa Rica to be grouped together, and the soccer gods complied, because with Miguel Herrera now coaching Costa Rica, that makes for a very spicy matchup. He's been taking shots at Mexico. He said recently that their World Cup record outside of Mexico isn't all that much better than Costa Rica, so that'll be fun. And he has some players, by the way. This young striker, Ugalde, who's the top scorer in the Russian league, and Alonso Martinez for NYCFC, so we'll see what Miguel Herrera can do. If they were to finish second in that group and the U.S. wins its group, we'd be looking at U.S.-Costa Rica quarterfinal. That would be fun as well. Then Group B is Canada's group. No Alphonso Davies, because Jesse Marsh irresponsibly played him in a match of no sporting significance, so he will miss the Gold Cup. You've got two Colombian managers in that group, Reynaldo Rueda in charge of Honduras, Hernan Dario Gomez in charge of El Salvador. He's the guy that took Panama to the 2018 World Cup. Curaçao, coached by Dick Advocaat, big name Dutch boss. And by the way, keep in mind, Canada, the only country other than the U.S. or Mexico to win a Gold Cup back in 2000. It's Mexico 9 titles, U.S. 7, and Canada 1. And then Group C, Panama, we know, got to the final of the last Gold Cup, lost 1-0 to Mexico on a goal by Santi Jimenez. And then they just got to the final of the CONCACAF Nations League, lost 2-1 to Mexico, 2 goals by Raul Jimenez. So we'll see what Panama can do here. Carrasquilla was the Golden Ball winner at the last Gold Cup. He's playing well. Jamaica, we know, coached by Steve McLaren. They've got these guys with Premier League experience like Leon Bailey and DeMar Gray. No Mikel Antonio, though. Unfortunately, got into a very serious car accident late last year, so he's going to be out. You've got some potential Cinderellas. Guadeloupe made it all the way to the semis back in 2007. Haiti, who we talked about, got to the semis in 2019. So it will be an interesting tournament for sure.
And obviously Canada without Alphonso Davies, and so that's going to hurt them. Here, let's do a little exercise here, Mosse. Let's, at this point, right now, and obviously given what we have seen over the last year for these teams, going into the Gold Cup, let's do a power rankings, top 5 for the Gold Cup. All right, so I'm going to put Mexico at number 1, okay? Do you have a disagreement with that when it comes to that?
I still think the U.S. on their best day is better than this Mexico team, but they did just win the Nations League and they won the last edition of the Gold Cup, so I'm okay with putting them 1.
I am going to put U.S. at 2. Ben,
yep.
You good with that?
I'm good with that.
I'm going to put Canada at 3. I'm going to put Panama at 4. And I'm going to put Jamaica at 5.
I
you have no problems with
no big issues with that.
So when people are listening and watching this and they say, how is that possible? Do you just believe that what has happened to this U.S. team is just an anomaly? It's a complete aberration and they are much better than what we see and they will come to play all of a sudden, or all of those things? Is that why you still put the U.S. at 2?
Yes, I still think their record in CONCACAF competitions the last several years is overall good. This latest Nations League Final Four notwithstanding, I still think on paper they have the most talent. And I think Pochettino will get it together for this summer. I
think that there are people out there that legitimately look at this U.S. men's national team at this point in time and are really underwhelmed and unimpressed, and I guess fearful of this team. I know multiple people in my life that they bleed for this team. They love to watch this team, and they are really, really concerned. And so when I come in with my positivity still to this team, they shake their heads and they go, no. And those are the people that you probably have to woo back and earn their respect again, because you have lost it from what they have seen. But these are people that will always and have always looked at it as glass half full. And I think there's a lot of people out there, Mosse, right now that relative to this U.S. men's national team are looking at it as a glass half empty. So that's what Pochettino and company are up against this summer. And I do think that they can't turn everybody, but they can turn some people and bring people back to believing that this is a team that is worthwhile going forward, and obviously going forward into the 2026 World Cup.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.